The video game industry has been going through some pretty big problems over the past couple of years, and a lot of companies have seen some major shakeups. Layoffs are normal, projects being canceled are normal, but it looks like another behemoth deal has gone through because EA has announced their agreement to be acquired for $55 billion. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, EA has been in a pretty rocky place for a long time. Sure, they have some series that do absolutely insane numbers, but then they release others that fall flat, and I don't necessarily know if they can get much worse. We could see monetization getting worse, maybe game quality dropping a little bit more, but they're already pretty low in terms of their public image, and maybe this deal will turn things around. I highly doubt it, but EA is now going private in a $55 billion deal with PIF, Silver Lake, and Affinity Partners. Under the terms of the agreement, the group will acquire 100% of EA, with Saudi Arabia's public investment fund rolling over its existing 9.9% stake in the company. EA stockholders will receive 210 per share in cash, and the per share purchase price represents a 25% premium to EA's unaffected share price of 168.32 at market close on September 25th, and a premium to EA's unaffected all-time high of 179.01 at market close on August 14th, 2025. And following the close of the transaction, EA's common stock will no longer be listed on any public market. Now, when companies are taken private, it typically, from what we have seen in the video game industry, turns out to be disastrous. Now, maybe this will be a exception to the rule. Maybe this will go well, but EA clearly is going through a bit of a tough time. Otherwise, of course, they wouldn't do this, but we know that their debt is extremely high, and we have seen a lot of failures on their plate. Now, sure, again, they do have some series that make massive amounts of money because of things like microtransactions, and I think that we are going to see their microtransaction game become even worse now. But Andrew Wilson said, "Our creative and passionate teams at EA have delivered extraordinary experiences for hundreds of millions of fans, built on some of the world's most iconic IP, and created significant value for our business. This moment is a powerful recognition of their remarkable work. Looking ahead, we will continue to push the boundaries of entertainment, sports, and technology, unlocking new opportunities." Now, we always joke about how companies should not want Chinese investors to be sinking their claws into their companies, and we've seen individual companies like NetEase, for example, do that. They are, of course, controlled by the CCP, and they do their bidding, but they invest a little in a lot of companies so that over time, as a company is going under, they can invest more and more and more to the point where it would make sense for them to be scooped up. And I think that we're going to be seeing something similar happening with the Saudis. Now, the Saudi prince has always been a very big fan of video games, and he does have a lot of investment in a lot of different companies. But this is a absolutely behemoth deal that is going to potentially change one of the largest companies within the video game industry. Of course, there are a lot of people that are worried about this. I think we are going to see a massive amount of layoffs going forward and a lot of projects being canceled because combined the deal is for an equity investment of approximately 36 billion and 20 billion of debt financing fully and solely committed by JP Morgan Chase Bank, 18 billion of which is expected to be funded at close. Each of PIF, Silver Lake, and Affinity Partners plans to fund the equity component of the financing entirely from capital under their respective control, the company said. Now, one other piece of this that I've seen people already melting down about is the fact that Jared Kushner is actually part of this deal. And as it's pointed out, even in this article, Jared Kushner is Donald Trump's son-in-law. So there are people saying, oh, here we go. Now the government's going to be keeping a closer eye on video games. I think the government is always keeping an eye on video games. We've seen so many politicians over the years from both sides saying video games are causing violence and video games are harmful. They're always looking to point the blame at video games. So I think that's always been the case. And I don't think that it's really going to get worse. But I do think that there are going to be politicians going, okay, there's a lot of money being thrown around in the video game industry. I also want a piece of the pie, which definitely is my worst nightmare. Having politicians be a part of the video game industry is not going to work out in any way, shape, or form. And I just think that somebody like Jared Kushner, and of course, this investment firm, is just looking for a way to, again, make money. And we know that in 2024, the video game industry brought in over $200 billion. That is a hefty chunk of change. So I think that's probably why. And Silver Lake is an entity in of itself that is extremely controversial. I think that there is a very small chance that this could go well. They could trim some of the fat at these studios, cancel games that absolutely nobody wants and nobody cares for, and really start greenlighting projects that are going to bring in the big bucks. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they are going to up the ante in terms of monetization. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought back that NFT idea that was floating around. Really, up until the beginning of last year, a lot of companies dropped NFTs, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was brought back around. AI investments, AI being heavily used in video game development, just again, ways for them to cut costs and up profits. And there are some people on social media who are very heated over this, which I completely understand. Even though EA is not a good company, they do still control a lot of major franchises, and they are still a big leading company in the industry. And we know that when one company does something, it emboldens the other ones to do the same thing. And EA could across the board push the $80 games like Nintendo tried, but EA is still bigger. So there are a lot of people talking about how, they're hopeful that this could bring back good games, and then others saying they've had so many bad habits. The biggest one is acquiring studios, squeezing them dry, then unceremoniously executing and discarding them. I doubt this will change such behavior. EA has actually been improving so much in the past 3 years. New Battlefield 6 has listened to what fans want. I hear EAFC has also addressed fan issues. A free-to-play title like Skate, not sure where the bad EA went, but it sure is not the same EA from 2019. I think that they definitely toned down the controversial decisions that they made, but at the same time, we haven't seen a major leadership shakeup, so I don't buy that the old bad EA is gone and the new one is here. As well as anyone, a publicly traded game company will get snapped up by activist investors like BlackRock and forced to make crap games and lose money. Honestly, don't know how woke investors aren't up on antitrust violations for what they've done to companies. I expect them to get even more greedy now with the new owners, need to recoup $55 billion. Realistically speaking, now it can only get better for EA when you're at the bottom of the barrel. The only way is up, which is true. They have been so bad, and it wouldn't shock me if they actually got a little bit better, but at the same time, I have absolutely no faith in this company or the people who have now acquired it. Gamers' response to Saudi's EA acquisition is overwhelmingly negative, but I think it's a good deal. And of course, I think that we could see EA banning gay now that the Saudis are kind of a part of this puzzle. I think that, of course, they want to go where the money is, and I don't think that that is where the money is pushing propaganda in video games. I don't think that pushing politically charged messaging in games is where the money is. And to be fair, I don't think that games like Dragon Age the Veilguard are where the money is. So we could see a drastic decrease in the amount of Veilguards that release nowadays. But I'm not going to get too hopeful. Next, Mass Effect will be heavily censored, sadly. Yeah, we could see a lot of franchises completely sanitized now. We don't know how this is going to go, and this deal is not going to be finalized until 2027. I believe they had expected. So we'll see. Saudis and Jared Kushner together, people pretending that EA was this amazing good guy publisher and that PIF will ruin them is hilarious. This might actually not be a bad thing if it means the games increase in quality again. So I will, of course, be following this pretty closely. If there's any major news, I will be covering it again in the future. But there's a lot of questions we have, and we're not going to get answers for a long time. Maybe you feel hopeful, maybe you feel extremely worried. Either way, EA's already been in a really bad place, so I don't know how much lower they could go. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.